Welcome everybody to the Niner Fanatic Podcast. My name is Peter Lucas, and this is my post-game show for that magnificent game that was the Rams and the 49ers. 49ers are going to the playoffs, y'all. 49ers are going to the playoffs. For a while there, I really did not think it was going to happen, but here we are. 49ers end up winning this game 27-24. Tremendous come from behind victory in overtime. It was touch and go for a minute. Obviously, it went to overtime, but I mean, tremendous. I couldn't be more excited about this game and about the message that it sent to the rest of the league and the message that it sent even how Shanny went about doing it, basically saying he could beat you with a hurt Jimmy Garoppolo, and it doesn't really matter because he's going to scheme it up and he's going to put you in a bind and he's going to make you guard him his way. He's going to affect the game in his way, and it really doesn't matter what anybody thinks. At the end of the day, Shanny's ego overall. So, but Shanny continues to live in McVay's head rent free. It is amazing. It is amazing how this guy just continues to find ways to beat this Rams team, and they know exactly what's coming and they can't do anything about it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing because we all hate the Rams. And if I got any Ram fans watching this, it's like, I mean, there's really nothing you could do. There's really nothing that you could do. There's really nothing Aaron Donald can do. There's really nothing Jalen Ramsey can do. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is. I really am a firm believer at this point that Shanny just knows what to do to McVay. McVay was so happy after he got that touchdown he's running down the sideline, should have had a penalty, but the reality is that he thought that it was over. 17-0. He thought it was over. And Shanahan just found a way. He just found a way. I mean, I don't even necessarily think it's that he found a way. I think we look at it as he found a way, but I really feel like Shanahan runs a bunch of his plays and it looks ridiculous to the rest of us. Like, why is he doing this? Why is he running this play? Why is he running that play? But we forget, and he tells us all the time, he runs a lot of plays just to see what the defense is going to do when he runs certain things, because then after that, that's when he pulls out the gadgets and pulls out the plays, because he knows what you're going to do if he does this. So, and a lot of it has to do with physical football. And we know that the Rams are not a physical team. They're a finesse team. And I think it kind of sucks to be a Ram fan to know that your team is going to put up points. It's going to put up throughout the regular season. It's going to put up points. It's going to put up you guys are going to get wins. But at the end of the day, when it comes time, playoff time, and it gets physical, you guys are probably going to fold. And it doesn't have to be the 49ers to do it. I feel like the Rams, I would be surprised if they went far in the playoffs. It was really a great game, really great testament to what Shanny likes to do. And we're going to get into the offense and the defense and everything that happened during this game. But I'm just really jacked. I'm really hype about this win, and I'm really because I honestly I was really skeptical that we were even going to make the playoffs, and I thought I was getting ready for my draft. I was getting ready for my draft pods, but here we are. We got new life, playoff time. So, but maybe it's because I wanted to say this to most of us. I mean, we had no faith in Shanny and Jimmy, but they came through. And I was thinking after this game was over, maybe Jimmy, that is just, I mean, we all know that it's Jimmy's style, but maybe it's because Jimmy has this completely unorthodox kind of QB style that it just looks the way it looks. But I started to really watch how the rhythm and how he throws, and watching the replays and watching how he comparing him to Trey. And I think watching Trey quarterback kind of gave me this kind of perspective of how Jimmy does it. And it's no coincidence that he gets the ball out in a couple of seconds. I believe it's like 2.3 seconds. He has one of the fastest time to throw in the league. But that's all by design by him, because he knows that he can't really move in the pocket. He doesn't want to get hit. He's as injury prone as Jimmy is. I feel like he feels it's necessary that he gets that ball out as quick as possible because he can't take any contact. Now, it's and for better or for worse, he might give up a pick, but he's really looking for the quickest way to get the ball out, and let his guys do the work for him. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes he gets the ball out so quick that he doesn't even have time to see the other defenders. And I think that's where he gets put in a bind. But it was really, I've never really looked at him in that vein as to why he does the things that he does. And in this game was the first time I really kind of saw why he does that. And so it kind of makes sense now. And then it makes sense as to why Kyle would pick him to start in this game, because, and it's all revisionist history now, but we all wanted, like, I know I did, and I know a lot of people wanted Trey to start. But I'm looking at it, Trent Williams not playing. Shanahan knew he was hurt, knew that his offensive line may not give him enough time against this Rams D line. It just made sense because Jimmy's trying to get the ball out as quick as possible. And that style might lend itself better to when he doesn't have the time to throw. So I think that they worked on that all week, on just getting the ball out, getting the ball out, getting the ball out. They knew they weren't going to have time to throw, and I think that was what the whole game plan was. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't, and it drove all of us fans crazy. If you watch Twitter, the spaces were insane during this game. So, but we're going to talk about Debo and Mitchell and Ayuk and Jennings. DeMeco Ryans just continues to impress. And I mean, the defensive game plan, I know that they scored points. I know that they scored 24. But this is a high-powered offense. Matt Stafford had almost 5,000 yards of passing yards this season. He almost had 40. Did he have 40 touchdowns? I think he had 40 touchdowns. So this is a high-powered offense. So to me, this was no small feat to hold this team to 24 points. And it was just a great game. Granted, it was a divisional game. We know each other better than most teams do, but DeMeco had a tremendous game plan. And we're going to talk about it later, but now the Rams, they kind of limp into the divisional title. They still get the divisional title, even with the loss, because Arizona lost. But they're limping in. They're not what I don't think they even think they're really much of. They're not going in strong, and they're not going in confident. I think that they don't want to see the 49ers in the playoffs again. If it comes to that, I don't think that anybody's afraid. I don't think anybody on that team is afraid of the Rams, to the point to where they might get a little bit overconfident. So that's always a scare. But I don't think that the Rams are tough enough to deal with the 49ers. And I mean, really, when it comes down to it, it really showed in this game. To just talk about the Rams and what they did in this game, McVay has got to want to throw himself into traffic. I don't understand. I don't understand what he's thinking as far as offense go. I mean, D'Amico had a really good defensive game plan against the team, but still, it had to drive him crazy that he could not run the ball at all. I mean, the 49ers have a good run defense. They should have been prepared for that. But the 49ers, it's kind of baffled me, and it speaks to D'Amico again that our corners are not good. I mean, we got Emmanuel Mosley back. That was big. But, I mean, you got a rookie over there, Ambry Thomas, who, and we'll get to him later, but they should have been targeting these guys. I mean, Tart went out at some point, and so I mean, they were by no stretch were they at full strength. They were pretty close to full strength, but I mean, there was weaknesses in the and D'Amico schemes it up to where that it's hard for them to find the weaknesses in the secondary sometimes, and that the DBs just always seem to be in the right position. It's just a testament to D'Amico and the scheme that he puts together. But I know it's got to drive McVay. It had to drive McVay crazy that Stafford could not get over the hump. But it snapped their 5-game winning streak. They came out hot in the first half. They got up 17-0, and it looked like Higbee looked like he got hurt at some point in the first I think it was the first quarter. But then like two plays later, he's back out there getting touchdowns, and it was. And I mean, we were the first one. We were like, uh-oh, because they went right down the field. They went right down the field on the 49ers, and it just looked like. And then Jimmy couldn't really do much, so it just looked really bad. It looked like the momentum was all the way in the Rams' favor, and like I said, they went up 17-0, and then the 49ers found a way to get down the field and get 3 points, but it was looking bleak by the half. But their O-line got dominated for most of the night. It was kind of surprising that they even got up 17-0 because our D-line was living in their backfield. The Stafford had nowhere to go. He got sacked, I believe, 5 times, and their O-line was trash a majority of the night. They couldn't get the run game going at all against the 49ers. Matt Stafford, he made some really good throws that you have to give him kudos, and you have to give him some kudos for it, because it looked like he got hurt in the second half, and to his credit, he stayed out there and kind of gutted through it. And then right after he got hurt, he dropped a dime to Cooper Kupp for a touchdown, and it was pretty. And I thought that momentum might be it for the 49ers at that point, but he ended up throwing 21 for 32, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And but he would just throw the ball up sometimes for his 2 interceptions. Like the 2 interceptions that he got it was just really weird the way he got the interception, because he's just literally just throwing the ball up. For the one that Ambry Thomas got, I mean, it was way behind. He wasn't even pressured. It didn't even look like, but it was way behind Odell Beckham. It looked like Odell Beckham had no idea where he was throwing the ball. So I don't know, the couple of interceptions that he gets, and it kind of happened to him in other games that it's just kind of like, I mean, where it's like a Jimmy interception. Like why? But Sony Michel ended up getting a majority of the carries. I really thought that Cam Akers was going to get at least 15 carries in this game. He only ended up getting 5, but Sony Michel ended up getting 21 carries, but he only got 43 yards off of 21 carries. Terrible outing for him. And then Akers got 5 carries for 3 yards. I mean, the 49ers were not having it with their run game at all. They kept trying and they just could not get anything going. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. I'm sitting there at the TV just saying nope. Every time I saw them hand the ball up to the running back, it didn't matter what coverage we were in. They were not going to run the ball on this team. I think they got one run that went over 5 yards. So, but Cooper Kupp and Higbee, were their main receiving weapons. They did a majority of the damage today for the Rams. And Kupp had 7 receptions, 118 yards, 1 TD. Nobody could really guard him. I mean, nobody. They put Dante Johnson. They had Jimmy Ward. They had I believe I saw Ambry Thomas get burnt by him one time. Really nobody could guard him. And but it was, once again, it was a testament to D'Amico's scheme that he kind of just he made it look like he was covered a couple of times, so that way Matt Stafford just didn't throw to him. But Higbee had 6 receptions, 55 yards. I talked about the touchdowns that he had. He had a couple of touchdowns, and he was more of a threat, which was kind of surprising because I mean 49ers do pretty well against tight ends, but yeah, Higbee had a decent night. Their defense had 3 sacks. I mean, they got to Jimmy a couple of times, but it's Jimmy. We know he's going to take at least a couple of sacks because he's sometimes if he doesn't get his first read, he tends to get jittery in the pocket, and then of course he gave up the 2 interceptions to Ramsey and Rapp, which is kind of ironic considering those are the 2 that Ramsey was poking him in the face or whatever last week. And but Ramsey tried to match the 49ers physicality in this game, and you could see it. But yeah, he tried to light up Debo early on in the game and got up puffing his chest out like he actually did something. And the reality was, I mean, Debo just kind of shrugged it off like, okay, you got me for a loss of 1. But he didn't go down. Ramsey went all the way to the floor. So I don't know. It was just it was some fake tough guy stuff. And Ramsey, it looked like he was complaining constantly on the sideline. I don't know what was going on there, but I think he was just unhappy with the kind of the defensive game plan because towards the end of the game, 49ers were just gashing him, and it just looked to me like the Rams couldn't take the physicality of the front. They could take it in the beginning. They tried to match the 49ers energy, but at the end of the day, I don't think that they could match that physicality. So as far as the 49ers offense, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. I'm tired of talking about the Rams because they're yesterday's news now. We got past them. They're yesterday's news. I want to get on to our offense, which our offense really there was a lot of kind of ups and downs in this game, and mostly because of Jimmy, but he had some drops too, and there was a couple of times Debo missed. I think Debo was the main one that missed. I think he missed both of them. Everybody thought Hasty missed one, but it was a hand. It got batted away. So, but Ayuk missed one also across the middle, and it's just there was a couple of them. Jimmy dropped it like they were behind the receiver, but they should have been caught. And I mean, every pass isn't going to be perfect. I don't think it's fair to Jimmy that we expect every pass to be perfect. But Jimmy still made some Jimmy plays, and but we're not going to get down about that. I'm so stoked about this win that we got this win, and you have to give Jimmy credit because when we needed him, he came through. And that's really all you can ask of your quarterback. I mean, that's not all you can ask for, but you know what I mean. It's he came through when he needed to. And in sports, that's really what it's all about. And not to say that he's the only reason why they got the win, because I'm going to get into that in a minute, but he was a big part. He was a big part of the win. And for him to be injured as we all think that he is, it was big. It was big time. I feel like he did a lot to he did a lot to prove some stuff to some people today. And but Jimmy got it done. As unorthodox as it may have been and it may have looked, he got it done. So he went 23 of 32, 316 yards. And I wanted to speak on that piece for just a second. And because we watched Trey last week, and it seemed like he made so many big plays, but Jimmy makes these 23 or 32. I mean, that's not a lot of throws, but he ended up with 316 yards, and we're all going to say, hey, that's because the guys that he threw it to did all the work. Okay, but the reality is that he put them in a position to make those big plays, and he often will hit them in stride, so they're right into the spot to where they can get those yards after the catch. And it's like I said, I am not the biggest Jimmy fan on the planet. Uh, I really want Trey in there, but at the same time, you have to kind of look at how he quite often gets this amount of yards, 250, 300 yards off of Dinkin and Duncan. It's a lot of Dinkin and Duncan. Sometimes he throws the ball downfield every now and then, but I mean, it's a lot of Dinkin and Duncan, slants, that kind of stuff, and screens. And but somehow, but then you look up and he got 316 yards off of 32 attempts, and he got one touchdown, but two interceptions, one fumble. Doesn't sound like a great stat line except for the yardage, but um, it got it somehow. It got it done. Somehow it got it done, and we can't really get mad about that. So, but with Trent Williams being hurt, uh, Jimmy may have been the best option, and I spoke about that earlier. And I'm not going to go all into it again, but I mean, he may have been the best option for this game, and we may not have known more than Kyle Shanahan as fans. Who knows? But Colton McKivitz stood in for Trent Williams, and I don't think he did that bad of a job, especially not in the run game. Jimmy just got and I mean, it could have been that, or Jimmy just got the ball off quick enough where he didn't make enough of a difference. He wasn't bad enough to make a difference, if that makes any sense. But Elijah Mitchell had a solid outing, even with the Rams crowding the line in the beginning of the game. He ended up with 21 carries, 85 yards, and he railed off a couple of big ones later on in the game. And it was because in the beginning he wasn't really getting much. They were stacking the box, and they were daring Jimmy to throw the ball. And it wasn't until Jimmy decided to throw a couple downfield that and like Ayuk got a couple that they really kind of started to loosen them up, and then the running game really got going. But Deebo Samuel, let's talk about Deebo for a minute. Deebo was the offense entirely. I just talked about Jimmy's so stat line. Deebo was just everywhere, did everything, including throwing a touchdown. So I mean, he ended up with 8 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. He ended up with 4 receptions for 95 yards. And then he had a pass for 24 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the guy just does everything. He just does everything well. And it really comes down to him just having that running back ability, but being a receiver. And he has pretty decent hands. He can catch the ball down the field, but he excels when he gets those little 5-yard slants, and then he can run after the catch or on a screen or the end arounds, where he can just use those running back type skills to really get in the open field and then break tackles, because that's really what he's good at. He's good at demoralizing defenses by breaking tackles, and that's exactly what he did to this Rams defense. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, and with what we saw from him, do not think. And this is, I'm gonna bring it up in a minute, but I feel like he's rubbing off on a certain other receiver on the 49ers. And I think we could really see a lot out of this other guy pretty soon, but I'm going to talk about him in a second. But the run game took over in the second half, was the real catalyst of the comeback. It really wasn't about the passing game until later, much later, the fourth quarter of the game, because the running game, they came out in the second half and they decided, we're just going to run it down your throat. we're done with the gadgets and testing out the game plan and all that kind of stuff. We're going to run the ball down your throat. And they just went to work. The running game just went to work. Elijah Mitchell, Debo just started going to work on those edges and even up the middle. It was a lot of zone up the middle that they just they just kind of posed their will upon the Ram defense. So Ayuk had a big game though today, 6 receptions, 107 yards, but Jennings really kind of stole Ayuk's thunder. I don't think a lot of people are going to be mentioning Ayuk that much, even though he had 6 catches, 107 yards, because at the end of this game, when you needed it the most, Jawan Jennings, big catches in the clutch, big catches, and not just big catches, but he was railing off Debo type runs. He wasn't allowing himself to be tackled. He was just running because big guy, but he was just running through people, running through tackles, and it kind of speaks to the Rams' inability to match physicality. But at the same time, Jennings balled out. Jennings balled out. He ended up with 6 receptions, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the last one he was wide open. But yeah, the guy was he was there for Jimmy in this game, and he almost dropped that ball that Debo threw to him. He juggled that in the end, but he ended up coming down with it. But he was about to be a scapegoat if he dropped that one. But I mean, it's there's a thin line between being the scapegoat and being a 49er legend. And for right now, he is legendary. But Kittle had a weird game. I mean, he had 5 receptions. Not that you would know it, but he only had 10 yards off of those 5 receptions. And I think we all knew he was going to have to stay in and block with Trent Williams being out. So I wasn't surprised that he didn't get a lot of run. I think they tried to get him out on a couple of screens, but I didn't think they were going to take him too far away from the line of scrimmage. So I wasn't really surprised at that at all. But overall, the offense, outstanding, complete team job by the team for like a concerted effort around offense. I feel like the 49ers are one of the only teams that really squeezes every ounce of ability out of every skill player on the team. And they did it today, and they all came through, and it was you could see the team effort. And it was outstanding performance by the offense. I mean, Jimmy made his mistakes, but at the end of the day, they got the win. And I think that offense had to come together, and they had to win in spite of Jimmy's deficiencies. But Jimmy made plays. Jimmy also made plays, so you can't really get too upset about it because they got the win. If they hadn't got the win, we would be talking about how bad Jimmy was. But I mean, the reality of the matter is that he came through at the end when they needed him to, and here we are. We're going to the playoffs. So defensively, the D line dominated the Rams O line. I mean, dominated them. They had 5 sacks. Armstead, Warner, Bosa, DJ, Arden Key, all of them got sacks or were a part of a sack. And this D line is not just about Nick Bosa anymore. I'm done. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks, but the reality is this team is not about just Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is a dominating force. They were triple teaming him at one point, but when they get those one-on-ones, they take advantage of those one-on-ones. Eric Armstead, we will hear no Eric Armstead slander from anybody at this point. The man had 2.5 sacks today, and he was dominating the interior. He was just blowing up the interior. DJ Jones blowing up the interior, and to the point to where Matt Stafford just could not get comfortable in the pocket. I thought that was a huge part of the reason why he only ended up with like 250 yards passing. He just could not get comfortable and get his feet set in the pocket. So, I mean, great dominating performance by the D line. There was no run. there was no run game for the Rams because the D line was dominating. They were getting all kinds of penetration, and which just allowed the linebackers and Greenlaw had like 12 tackles, and Warner had, I believe, he had 8. So they were there to clean up the D line couldn't get to, and it was just beautiful. The front for the 49ers was the MVP of this defense today. But Cooper Cup dominated whoever was in front of him in the secondary. I mean, they really were missing K'Waun Williams. Not that K'Waun could have completely stopped Cooper Cup. Let's not pretend like, but just having that guy that's used to being the nickel guy and used to being in that position, taking away that other team's best slot receiver, it was we missed him. We missed him. Dante Johnson did the best that he could. He tried to stay with him, but I mean, there was only so much he could do. Dante Johnson is not anybody's best corner on any list. He's kind of a body that is so, and he's not terrible. He's not going to get embarrassed, but he's just not that great. So missing K'Waun Williams was huge with where Cooper Cup was concerned. If we had K'Waun in this game, it might have not been. We might not have gone to overtime. I'll say that. So, but OBJ kind of became an afterthought. I think he only had 2 catches. He had, like, I think they were 9 yards a pop, but he was kind of an afterthought after the first half. And Greenlaw was back. And I say it kind of lackluster because, I mean, he had 12 tackles, but the reality was he made some plays. He made some good plays, some good like solo tackles, but the mistakes that he made that continued drives for them were just egregious. They were just bad. He had a face mask penalty for a guy that was already, the play was over. There was like no reason. There was no reason to go for his face mask. I just don't get it. He just seemed like he was overzealous in the moment. Like he was so amped about being back on the field that he was just overzealous for everything. And it was, you could see him just being a little too amped up. And I just felt like he needed to calm down, but they didn't really have anybody else to put out there. Azeez was out for this game. So it is what it is, but we ended up getting the win. But I mean, they're gonna have to dial him back for the next game if Azeez can't go. Warner was solid. I mean, Warner was he wasn't, in my mind, he wasn't flying all over the place like he's been kind of off and on. I feel teams kind of go away from him now, and he doesn't get a chance always to be in this defense and D'Amico's system. I don't feel like he gets a chance to be that fly all over the place type of linebacker that he used to be in with Saleh. But he was solid. I didn't see any missed tackles or anything like that. Let's talk a little bit about the rookie, Ambry Thomas. Now, Ambry Thomas, we've been talking about him for the past couple weeks now, about how he is just growing up right before our eyes. Ambry Thomas is like, and I said it's only a matter of time before this kid gets a pick, and he got a pick in this one. Now, granted, it was a terrible throw by Matt Stafford, but he got a pick, and he was watching the ball into. He actually went for the ball. He was aggressive for the ball, and granted, there was nobody around him because Odell was completely out of the play, but he went for the ball and caught the ball and made the interception. That did so much for that young man's confidence. I'm sure he did a great job all game. He was always in position, and it's just the kid is going to be good. The kid's going to be good. He's going to be solid. And it isn't even, we don't know how good he really can be at this point. I think he gets better every week. and he has the obvious athletic ability to run with anybody. I feel. I mean, he's going to take his lumps because he's a rookie, but I think eventually next year, I just think sky's the limit for Ambry Thomas. The guy, he has the confidence now, and he's getting the swagger about him that I think 9 times out of 10 with these corners, a lot has to do with their swagger and what they think they can do. So it's because they all have athletic ability. It's just about what you feel, what your strength is, what can you do? Do you believe that you can do? So, Ambry Thomas, hats off to you, brother. It was great performance. Mosley returned. We had a Mosley sighting. Got targeted early. I think he gave up a couple of catches, but for the most part, he was solid. Also, he's going to be a huge factor in the playoffs because everybody's been used to us having Josh Norman back there, and we don't have Josh Norman back there no more. You can't pick on him no more. We're not going to have a bunch of DPIs all the time, even though Mosley got one today. But it's not going to be like Josh Norman. That those days are over. So teams are going to have to figure out a way to they're going to have to figure out another way to get past this secondary. And I think he's going to be huge in this playoff run. It's going to be a completely different team in the playoffs. I really believe. So, but once again, I want to talk about DeMeco Ryans. Him continuing to scheme around the 49ers personnel deficiencies. It doesn't matter who goes down. Hufanga went down in this game. Tart went down in this game, and hopefully Tart can be there for the Dallas game. And you want Hufanga available too. You want everybody available. But I mean, it's almost like I'm not really scared because DeMeco will find a way to scheme around it. I've never seen a guy, and Saleh did a great job last season of scheming around the corner injuries last season. But I mean, this is a completely different animal, and the defensive line. I mean, I can't stop saying good things about the defensive line, but it's just really impressive. It's really impressive, and I think most teams would love to have a guy like DeMeco Ryans that can scheme it up like he can. And I almost feel, I mean, how lucky are the 49ers to have a coordinator as good as Saleh, because he was very good, and to have DeMeco come right underneath him, to have both of those guys on the staff at the same time. It was the 49ers got a wealth of riches on this coaching staff. I mean, I haven't even mentioned the D-line coach, Kasurik. That guy, he turns rocks into diamonds on the regular. Arden Key was supposed to be a nobody. He was supposed to be a nobody. Maurice Hurst was nobody pickup. And he just turns guys into into viable players. And there was another stat about one of the guys that we had last year, and it's sad that I can't remember his name because he was one of the focal pieces. But I mean, the guy, I don't think that they worry about who's on this squad on the defensive line, because they're gonna find a role for them, and they're gonna teach them some stuff that just makes them better. It just makes them better. They're all producing, and it's great to see. So my original prediction was 49ers 24, Rams 21. Score ended up being 49ers 27, Rams 23, but I was pretty close. But at the end of the day, 49ers get the win. Rams tried to buck up, but ended up folding in the end. That's what the Rams do. They're incapable of playing a physical game. And yeah, I'm going to keep talking stuff about the Rams because they're a division opponent. We can't stand the Rams. So yes, y'all can do nothing with the 49ers. A lot of people were disappointed with Jimmy starting, but he got the job done. We can't say nothing. It is what it is. You got to own it. It wasn't pretty, but they got the win. and the Rams made a concerted effort to stop the run, but eventually the run game, they just kept hitting them in the mouth until they just folded. So the run game was just too much for him. Shanny found a way to get almost all the weapons the ball, and that's something I talked about during the offensive segment. But great job scheming it up by Shanny. He kept running different things in the first half. He sees what's going to work, what might work, what will work against their defense, and then come second half, it's time to implement all that stuff, and he just gets it done. But it's playoff time, and next opponent's Dallas, in Dallas, renewing of the rivalry. It's like the 90s all over again. Two completely different styles of teams, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great to watch, great to cover. It's going to be really great to talk about all the matchups and everything that are going to go on in this game, because both of these teams have some good players, and I mean, it's playoff time, so that's enough to get excited. And but thank you all for listening, watching, ready to get these playoffs started. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So even though the 49ers just squeaked in, anything can happen, because in the playoffs, it's all about the matchups. And it doesn't really matter who got in when and the seeding and all that kind of stuff. It all depends on what the matchup, how the matchup goes. And yeah, matchups make fights. And this is definitely going to be, I think that Dallas is more of a finesse style team. Yeah, their defense gets a lot of turnovers, which scares me with Jimmy back there. But at the end of the day, it's all about the matchups and do they match up well. And I'm going to be doing a lot of tape diving this week just to look at and see what the Niners can exploit and what the Dallas might be able to exploit against the 49ers. But hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so that you can know when all the new pods come out. I really appreciate everybody listening and giving me feedback and all that good stuff. We really, really enjoyed this game today. Really enjoyed talking to all my buddies on Twitter and Spaces and all that stuff. So thank you guys for listening. Go Niners. Until next week, go Niners.